Lesson B1, Nature versus Nurture, Biology and Society. What makes us who we are? Our nature, our biological DNA, and the anatomy and physiology that drives us to eat and sleep and reproduce? Or the way we were nurtured by our family and society in general, and the experiences we have throughout our lives? What makes us different from one another? If society is made up of individuals and groups of people, then to begin our study of society, we have to look at what makes people behave the way that they do. Sociobiology is the study of how human social behavior is affected by their biology, thus socio or social biology. Doctors prescribe chemical treatments for depression, anxiety, and many other psychological conditions, indicating a belief that our brain chemistry can disrupt what we consider normal behavior. But some sociobiologists go further, and biological determinism is the general theory that who we are is mostly, if not completely, determined by our biology. In this view, our genetics shape our anatomy and hormones, which give us certain basic instincts and needs, which we then act out depending on our environment. We tend to be anthrocentric, meaning that we think the world revolves around humans and that we are very different from other animals, but we share much in common with our animal cousins. Just look at the complex societies and social orders of ant colonies, which have specialized workers that hunt and take out garbage and even farm. But humans take social complexity to new levels, and we do so with the help of our biology. We have tongues that can make complex sounds, like the words I'm speaking, and opposable thumbs that allow us to make and use precise tools, like the computer I'm recording on. There are other animals that have nimble thumbs and tongues, and even some that have very large and capable brains, but we are unique in having all of these together, which opens up some amazing possibilities. We've seen aspects of culture among chimp communities that pass down unique ways of life through the generations, but we've yet to see any other animal with the complexity of culture that we see amongst all human societies. We can use our tongues for language to describe our world and plan for the future, and we've built on the knowledge of our ancestors to build cars and power plants and, yes, computers. Although we have the same instinctive drives as other animals, hunger, lust, and anger, our culture gives us the norms and values that change the way we react to those drives. Human culture grew initially to meet our biological needs. A snow fox is very well adapted to survive in a cold climate. They are born with thick fur and sharp teeth and instincts that help them stay alive. Human biology is best adapted for warm climates, and yet we've managed to survive in almost every habitat on Earth, and even outside of our planet. We've done so not with biological adaptations, but with cultural adaptations. We've learned from other people how to survive by making the warm coats and knives that we need and changing our behavior to suit the environment. Biological evolution took us so far, made us modern humans, but since then, it's culture that has changed our way of life and our behavior. Arguably, the most important and special aspect of human culture is language. A fox can teach its children some of what it needs beyond instincts, but the young fox must learn by watching and can take in only a small portion of what its parent knows. It must then build on its own experience, and over each generation the total amount of knowledge never really grows. But humans can teach their children with words, describing situations and ideas that the child has not seen directly, allowing them to pass on far more of their knowledge. The child can then build on that knowledge not just with its own experience, but also with knowledge passed down from others in the community. Thus, the total amount of knowledge can increase with each generation, increasing the complexity of our culture and our ability to survive. One person can learn from and teach many others, or even produce things that others need for them, so that our society as a whole is capable of far more than any individual, and can adapt better and better without any biological changes. Once you add in the ability to write down our knowledge, then the ability for humans to pass on knowledge through the generations becomes almost limitless. Cultural adaptations for survival have led to some cultural universals, which we see in almost every society. All human groups build shelters, cook food, and pass down some basic understanding of health and medicine. Every human society we've encountered has symbolic language as well, and uses them to identify individuals and recognize key social structures and rites of passage. Like sociobiology, functionalism sees these as essential structures for survival, for societies as a whole. But within those cultural universals we have in common, individuals within every society are unique. Sociobiology points out that no two sets of DNA are perfectly identical. Even identical twins such as Tia and Tamara show differences, which could be based on different environmental conditions that affect biology. But sociologists call attention to the crucial role of social interaction itself as a builder of personality. We'll focus on the process of socialization in the next module, but all it takes to see how completely the way we're raised can change our behavior is to see the sad cases of children raised without human interaction. A dog raised with humans never really adapts to human life, but your identical twin raised with dogs would likely take on dogs' largely instinctual behavior as a learned cultural adaptation. But such cases luckily are rare, and most children are raised with human culture. So why, despite our common human biology and cultural universals, are whole groups of people different from one another? Sociobiology might say that from our origins in East Africa, humans have settled in different parts of the world, and our biology has adapted to local environmental needs. If that's the case, then what kinds of humans are there? We've often separated ourselves into different races of humans. We see some common visual differences between groups, some with lighter skin or rounder eyes or thicker hair, and these traits are mostly the result of biology. They provide some protections from direct environmental dangers, such as sun or cold. With modern technologies, we can examine our genetic blueprints in detail. And we find that all humans share about 99.5% of their DNA. Many people in the past assumed that these human races were different enough to form separate subspecies, as if people from one continent were a homogeneous group, all pretty much the same, and that 0.5% genetic difference was between them and a distantly related group from elsewhere. But what we actually find is that there's a huge variety within any one group, and that those features that are more common in one place than another make up only a small portion, about 6% of the overall differences. So while families from near Earth's poles on average have lighter skin than families from near the equator, there is a much larger range of color and shape and other biological factors within any given group.